Today, I'm going to talk about reproduction in plants, including both sexual and asexual reproduction, and the reasons why they are important. Reproduction is a process of living organisms which they can produce new individuals and helps the species survive over time in order to prevent extinction. Plants, especially flowering plants, can reproduce in two ways: sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction in plants usually happens in flowers, which are the reproductive organs. The process involves two gametes, the male and the female gametes, joining together, which leads to genetic variation in the offsprings, which helps plants adapt to environmental change and the survival for the fittest. The male part of the flower is called the stamen, made up of the anther and filament. The anther produces pollen grains which contain the male gametes, and the filaments support the anther. The female part is called the carpel or pistil, which include the stigma, style, and ovary. The stigma receives pollen, the style connects stigma to ovary, and inside the ovary, there are ovums, which contain the female gametes. For plants to reproduce sexually, they need to have pollination. Pollination is the transfer of pollen from the anther to the stigma of a flower of the same species. There are two main types of pollination: insect pollination and wind pollination. Insect-pollinated flowers are usually brightly colored, sensed, and produce nectar to attract insects. Their pollen is sticky, so it attaches to insects. Wind-pollinated flowers are usually small and dull, with no scent or nectar, and they produce lots of light pollen which can be easily carried by wind. After pollination, it comes to fertilization. Once the pollen lands on the stigma, it grows a pollen tube down the style into the ovary. The male gamete travels down the tube and fused with the female gamete in the ovum. This forms a zygote. The fusion between the male and the female gametes is called fertilization. After fertilization, the zygote develops into an embryo. The ovule becomes a seed, and the ovary becomes a fruit. The seed contains a food store to help the embryo grow. Now, let's move on to asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction involves only one parent and does not involve gametes or fertilization. This means the offspring are genetically identical to the parents, and they are called clones. Asexual reproduction allows plants to reproduce quickly and efficiently, especially in stable environments. Examples of asexual reproduction in plants include runners, bulbs, tubers, and rhizomes. For example, strawberry plants reproduce using runners, which grow along the ground and form new plants. Potatoes reproduce using tubers, where new shoots grow from stored food. Bulbs, like onions, store food and can grow into new plants. Finally, plants can also reproduce asexually through artificial methods, such as cuttings and tissue culture, which are used in farming to produce large numbers of identical plants which can have the desired characteristics. In conclusion, sexual reproduction produces genetic variation which helps plants adapt to changes in the environment, while asexual reproduction produces clones which are identical to their parents quickly and efficiently. Both types of reproductions are important for plant survival. That's the end of today's video. Thanks for watching.